Now we know that homocysteine is a vasculotoxin, meaning it directly damages our blood vessels. Even moderately elevated levels of this toxic substance have just been shown to be a setup for heart disease. Right? So now the goal is to have a homocysteine level under 10. This is just micromoles per liter. It's kind of how we measure it. Again, this is a toxic substance, so we want low levels in our blood. And so if you look at data from 2001, for example, meat eaters have an average homocysteine level of 12. Not so good. But ovo-lacto-vegetarians had an average homocysteine level of 16, and vegans, 19. Houston, we have a problem. Seems that people with homocysteine levels as high as 16 are at threefold risk of dying from a heart attack. It's been estimated that if we just had a 5-point drop in homocysteine levels in this country, we would save the lives of 56,000 Americans every year. And as bad as vegetarians have it, there seems to be an epidemic of this so-called hyperhomocysteinemia, or too much homocysteine in the blood of vegans. And it's not just a vasculotoxin, it's a neurotoxin as well. It kills brain cells. People with homocysteine levels over 14 are 4 times more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. And so this, homocysteine, is where we think the bulk of the blunting of our heart disease benefit comes from. This homocysteine is also where we think that our increased rates of degenerative brain disease come from as well. Pretty much everyone gets enough vitamin B6. It's found widely through animal and plant foods. Same thing with choline, found widely through the animal and plant kingdom. But you know, folate is found almost exclusively in plant foods, and this vitamin B12, as many of you know, is found almost exclusively in animal-derived foods. This, folate, is the reason why meat eaters are stuck up at 12, right? They're just not eating enough fruits and vegetables, not getting enough folic acid. But this, vitamin B12, is the reason we have such terrible rates of hyperhomocysteinemia, or we have such dangerous levels of homocysteine. More and more evidence is accumulating that we, vegetarians and vegans, are just not getting enough vitamin B12 to adequately lower our homocysteine levels. And it turns out for vegans, some vegans aren't even getting enough B12 to avoid the classic B12 deficiency disease. Right? It used to be thought, you don't need to worry about your B12 because you need so little, and you know, it's kind of on everything and you store it up for years. What's the big deal? Severe irreversible brain damage. That's the big deal. Right? Well, what about herbivores like gorillas, right? They don't take no B12. They seem to be doing pretty good. Well, they also eat bugs, dirt, and feces. If you also want to eat bugs, dirt, you may also not have to worry about your B12. But if, for whatever reason, you choose not to, you need to get your B12. Contrary to popular vegan myth, clinical B12 deficiency, meaning symptomatic B12 deficiency, is not uncommon. And I will spare you the gruesome scare stories of the vegans that have died, went blind, were paralyzed because of not enough B12. I mean, do we want articles in the medical literature published with titles like subacute combined degeneration of the spinal cord in a 14-year-old due to a strict vegan diet? This poor vegan kid in Philly got paralyzed, right? Even one of these is way too many, right? So the evidence is perfectly clear. You either eat B12 fortified foods or take B12 supplements. Right? I don't need fortified foods there, partner, because I get all the B12 I need from fermented foods like tempeh and miso and sea vegetables. No, you don't. It used to be thought that lots of plant foods had B12 in it, but actually we were using a faulty test. We were using a test that didn't differentiate between active B12 and these so-called inactive B12 analogs, which look like B12 to the test, but actually unusable by our body. So it actually, if we do take in these B12 analogs, it may actually kind of clog up our B12 machinery and act as anti-B12. Wait a second, can't I just go into my organic backyard garden and kind of pull up a carrot and not scrub all the dirt off? If I may turn your attention to one of the most prestigious sources of vegetarian nutrition knowledge, the Vegetarian Nutrition and Health Letter out of Loma Linda University, March 2002, they had a great article called The 10 Most Common Myths About Vegetarian Diets, and myth number 1 was, drum roll please, vegetables grown in B12-rich soil can meet vitamin B12 needs. It's a myth. It's not true. B12 deficiency is actually not uncommon at all in the vegetarian community, but it needn't be so. Right? Nothing's written in stone. All we need to do is get our B12. And the studies have already been published. You take a whole bunch of vegetarians and vegans, you give them B12, and wham! Their homocysteine levels drop like a rock down to 8. Not up at 12? No. The only reason the meat eaters are stuck up at 12 is because they're not eating enough fruits and vegetables, right? But we can take advantage of our folate intake, right? And as soon as we get our B12, wham, down to 8, down into the safety zone. Right. And meat eaters are catching on. This, in a recent study called Vegan Diet-Based Lifestyle Program Rapidly Lowers Homocysteine Levels. They took these they took these meat eaters, put them on a vegan diet for 1 week. 1 freaking week, and found that those with the highest homocysteine levels had their homocysteine levels drop by over 20%, right? The vegan diet is like magic. And now these were meat eaters, so they're like B12 coming out their ears, right? I mean, but all they needed was some fruits and vegetables to bring their homocysteine levels down. But imagine what we could do. We get our flax, get rid of those oils, take our B12, on top of our cholesterol levels, our blood pressure and all that, we are just going to walk all over. All right. So what we need to do to fight homocysteine, vitamin B12 in B12 fortified foods or supplements. If you want to do supplements, there's kind of 2 ways you can do them, weekly or daily. Probably the simplest method is to chew up 1 B12 tablet containing 2,000 micrograms or more once a week. So you can go down to Green Star Co-op and get these 5,000 microgram tablets. And so you can cut them in half and just take 1/2 of one of those pills once a week. Share a bottle with your friends. Comes out to be about $5 a year. Pick a day of the week. You know, I know my B12 day is Monday. I know every Monday I got to update the Mad Cow page, take my B12. You know, it's kind of part of my life. You know, that's what. B12 is indeed water soluble.
So you can take it once in a week, and that's enough.
You can, if you take high enough doses, you can take once a week because your liver actually stores it up. Although you can certainly, if you don't like to take, if it's hard for you to remember to take something once a week, and rather get in the habit of taking something once a day, then you have to take much less, 100 micrograms once a day. So if you have a multivitamin or something you take once a day, you should check to see if it has 100 micrograms or more of vitamin B12. And all B12, thank you for that question, all B12 in supplements and fortified foods is vegan. It's bacteria derived. It's all, they just put it in a stainless steel tank. None of it is animal derived. It's just too expensive. So having said that, some of the other filler ingredients might not be vegetarian. It might have gelatin in the capsule or something. But the B12 itself is vegan. All right. Now, for those of you who don't like taking supplements, you can get all the vitamin B12 you need by eating B12 fortified foods. The only thing you have to remember is if you rely exclusively on B12 fortified foods, you need to get at least 2 servings a day, separated by like 6 hours. So if in the morning you have a cup of B12 fortified soy milk, then, you know, in the afternoon or evening you can have something else with B12, like a teaspoon of the Red Star Vegetarian Support Formula nutritional yeast, or a lot of the, you know, fake meats and you know, rice milks and soy milks and breakfast cereals, cornflakes, Raisin Bran, Grape Nuts, and they all have vitamin B12 in them. You just have to read your labels. What about ovo-lactose? How much B12 is in the eggs and dairy? Well, you would have to eat like 5 eggs a day or 3 glasses of milk. That's an awful lot of saturated fat and cholesterol. Certainly would not recommend that.